So I hope things are going well for you learning Excel, that you're getting the hang of it, that you're practicing it, that the homework is teaching you the skills to use it for your engineering calculations. What this video is going to do is give you a few tips working with numbers, especially rounding. When doing engineering calculations in Excel, rounding can be a big deal. So I'm going to kind of show you a tip with that to keep you out of trouble. And then I'm also going to introduce you to graphs, again, in an engineering context. So let's say we're trying to create a spreadsheet where we have specialized coatings that we're putting on cylindrical parts. And we want to be able to put in the radius, the length, have it calculate the surface area, the cost per square foot of the coating, the quantity of parts that we need, and it's going to give us the total cost. So it's going to look like over here. So you can see, like, we want 2 decimal spots for the surface area because of how we're measuring, no decimal spots for this. So like our surface area comes up to 91.61 times 10 times 10,000, which makes sense, 9,161,000 for the total cost. So let's do that over here. So surface area, pi r squared times the length. So I need to put in pi. I could put in 3.14. There's probably a function. What I do when I need a function is I come over here, I say more functions, I say all, and I start typing what I think it might be, pi, there it is right there. So I say, okay, yep, that's it. I say, okay. Anything it needs, it's going to tell me here. It doesn't need anything. I'm going to say, okay. Then what I do is look right here. Now I know the syntax. It's pi, open, close parentheses. Okay, great. So now I can come and actually use that in the function that I want to do. So, okay, I want pi times the radius squared times the length. Now the length, sometimes when your function is right next, see when I click there, I didn't go into that cell. I went to the beginning of this. So what you can do is type down here a little bit and then move up and you get to the cell that you want. Okay, perfect. Okay, did I get what I wanted? Pi r squared, yep. Okay, everything's good. Okay, now I want 2 decimal spots for that and none for this. So I'm going to come right here, and you probably know what you're going to do. You're going to say, okay, format cells, number, and I'm going to use, I want currency so it looks right, and I want 0 decimal spots. Okay, perfect. So that guy, that's that guy right there. Now I come to this guy, and I right click, and I say format cells, and I say number, and I want 2 decimal spots. So I say, okay. So that all looks great, but look at my number right here. It should be 9161. It's 9160884. So you see, they don't match. I've got a problem here. And here's the problem. When I change the format of this, it doesn't change the number. It just changed what it looks like. Look, if I come right here and I say equals, and I reference that cell right there. You say, oh, so what? No. Now I'm going to come right here and I'm going to say format cells, and I'm going to put more decimal spots. Oh, that number still has all those decimal spots down there. Well, how about this guy? Let me reference him. Oh, that's 91.61. So how did I do that? Well, when I did this calculation, I actually rounded it to 2 decimal places. I didn't just change the format, I physically rounded it. So how do I do that? Well, there's a function, just like we did before. I'm going to come up here, more functions. It's probably round something. So I'm going to say, oh, hold on a second, I need to say all. So now I'm going to jump down here and look under the R's, elemental P, Q, round. Oh, look right there, round up, round down. Round is just plain old round. That's what I want. Okay. So what does it ask for? The number, what's the number? Number is a number you want to round. So I'm going to click on that and click on that guy right there. Number of digits is a number of digits you want to round to. So I want 2. So I'm going to say OK. And now I can look and see, okay, what's the syntax? Equals round, parentheses, the thing I want to round, comma, 2, or however many I want. Okay, great. So what I could do is now I could come right here. I want to round all that. So I can click right there and I can say round, parentheses, the thing I want to round, all that, comma, how many digits, 2, close parentheses, whammo. Now, look, now it's turning out right. Because that number, I actually am rounding it now, so I don't have to worry about this number being one thing. The format, it looks like it's one number, where actually when it's doing the calculations, it's using a different number. So with your engineering stuff, when you really need your number to be a certain number of decimal points, and you're going to display it that way, then instead of just changing the format, you need to actually go in and round those numbers. So that is the number that it will use when it's doing calculations. If you don't, as we saw before, it's going to use the unrounded number in calculations. And someone's going to look and they're going to be like, wait a minute, that's not right. If I multiply those, that's because it's only displaying the number rounded. It didn't actually do that in the calculations. Okay, so that's one thing. How to find functions, you find them and then you can embed them in places. And then the other thing is the whole rounding. So now let's look at graphs. You remember the beam example that we did. You did this for homework, we had a certain load. So one of the things that I could do with this, if I wanted, is I could take these guys and I could create a graph, okay? You've probably done graphs before in Excel. If you haven't, I'm going to show you how to do them. It's very straightforward. I also want to show you some of the formatting things and how you do that. Okay, so to do a graph, when the numbers are right next to each other like this, my X and my Y, is pretty straightforward. I just highlight all of them. I can also highlight these up here. It's not going to change things a whole lot. And you say Insert, and then you go pick the kind of graph that you want. Okay, there's a line graph, and you don't want a line graph. I'm going to show you why in a minute, why you don't want a line graph. Then there's also this XY scatter. That's what you want. The kind of graphs you've been doing your whole life are these XY scatter. So I'm going to click on that, and then I can pick what I want. So notice that says scatter. You got to read when you move over on it. Scatter with smooth lines. Scatter with smooth lines, no marker. Scatter with straight lines and markers, that's what I want. I don't want the smooth line. I want it to, if I'm going to put a line, I want it to be exactly what the line is. Okay, so there's my basic graph, okay? That's all I have to do is just highlight them. I'm going to show you how to get to some of the other things going on when we do some more with this, but that's the basics. But let's look at formatting this graph, okay? So let me move down just a little. I'm going to make this guy just a little smaller. So he comes like that. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so now let me look and show you how to do some of the things with this. One is you always want to make sure you label your axes. So see this plus right here? You can click on that, and that's chart elements. So I want axis titles. So now I can double click on this, and I can load, whoops. And just like before, you want to make sure that you can do this. You're going to turn in this file, and then I'm going to want to see that you've done this graph and done the formatting stuff like I've done here. You could click up here, and I'm going to delete all that stuff and say deflection, yada, yada, yada. You got the idea, okay? So that's one thing that I can do. I can add the titles. Also notice that this goes from 0.125 to 0.2875. This goes from 0 to 3.5, and it goes in big chunks. It's hard to see where things are. I want to change that. When you click on a part of a graph, so like see, that's the x-axis, that's the y-axis. When you click on a part of the graph and right-click, you can usually format that thing. So I can say format axis. So notice over here, here's my minimum. Well, you see, I want to start at 0.125. Here's my maximum. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to stop at 0.2875. Or I could have said 3. And notice I'm actually going up by 0.25. So I'm going to come down here, and instead of my units, I'm going to go up by 0.25. And then my minor units, I'm going to go 0.125. Okay? Now you look at that and you're like, whoa, that's all garbled. Sometimes to display what you want, you got to make the graph a little bit bigger. Okay? So you say, oh, that's a lot better. But look, I got an extra 0 there. Right click, hit it, right click, format axis, and then look right down here, number. See, that's where I can change the number format just like before. See, I got 4 decimal spots. I only want 3. Okay, very nice. So now, see, notice I'm going up by 0.5. My smaller increments, if I right click on it, I can look and see. My smaller increments are 0.125. Cool. Okay, let's look at the y-axis now. Same kind of thing. I got way too many decimal points. And then notice too, I only go up to 0.9. I don't need to go all the way up to 1 if I really want to scrunch it in and get my axis as big as it can be. So I can format axis. I can come down to number. And I can say, look, I really only want 1 decimal spot. And come up here, and I want my maximum to be 0.9. And also, my minor points, I want to go up by 0.5. I'm sorry, by 0.05. There we go. So I'm going to click off. So you see, now notice I've got these little tick marks in the middle. Where did those come from? I'm going to right click, format axis, look down here, tick marks. And I have none. So my minor, I'm going to say go on the inside. So look at what that did. That put those little tick marks right there. If I want some for the major, I could also put those, and I could say, look, put those on. Let's let those cross. And so you can't really see it because it was already there. Let me go on. Let me put them on the outside. There we go. So there's tick marks on the outside. So pretty much anything you want to do format-wise to the graph to make it look like you want it to look to communicate well, you right-click on the item, just like I'm going to show you a little bit later. You right-click on this, format data series. That's how you change your line, your marker, all that kind of stuff. In the middle of this, if I click on the middle of my graph, format plot area. That's how I could highlight the whole thing. So if you click on parts of your graph, that's where you can go in and change that kind of thing with it, okay? Now, see how my graph has a line connecting the points? You only want to connect points if they are actually related to each other. Because when a graph has a line connecting points, it's implying that there is a relationship between the points. So that X and Y have a relationship, and that's the line there. If they don't, then don't put lines on your graph. In our case, they do, because the deflection is related to the load. How's it related? With this equation right here. Okay, and so speaking of that, the other thing you can do with your graphs is you can come here and right-click, and then notice it says Add Trend Line. So I can add an equation that fits my points. And there's different kinds of equations. Like mine is obviously a straight line, so I could add a linear, an exponential, a polynomial. Lots of different ways to fit equations. And then I can say display the equation on the chart. And there it is right there. That's text now, so I could come up just like always and I could say, you know what, I want that bigger. I want to make that bold. Whoops, I have that collected. There we go, having bold. Does this equation make sense? What this is saying is deflection equals a number times the load minus, now look, you see that to the minus 16th? That's just round off error and all that. I could actually come in and highlight that last part, and I would delete it because that's just noise in there. Now look, this makes complete sense, doesn't it? Because look at this equation. W is the load. Deflection is W times a bunch of stuff. And for one given problem, all that is fixed. Well, that's exactly what we saw here. So if you were to take L cubed over 4EB cubed for these things right here, do you know what you'd come up with? 0.2908, okay? So there's a basic graph. You just highlight, tell it what type you want, and it's going to put your graph in, and then that's how you go through and format. So let me show you a couple other things with graphs. Now, let's say for our beam problem that we don't just want it for one height. That when we do this for a particular beam, we'd really like to be able to see 3 heights. Because let's just say in the kind of work we do, we have 3 different thicknesses of material to pick from. And so anytime we look at it, we want to see how it's responding to all 3 of those materials. So we could do that, and we could create a graph that looks like this. So notice it's now deflection by load versus load by beam height. And you see our 3 different heights down here. And so we have the 3 plotted. One of the things, a couple things I want to point out is when you do graphs, notice that my markers are all different. So that if somebody printed this in black and white, they would still be able to see the difference between these 3. Sometimes you can even use solid lines and dotted lines to help bring out the difference. But you always want to make sure that your graphs, if someone prints them in black and white, you have different markers that differentiate your different things on there. Also, I want to point out, notice right here I have 0.125, height 0.125. Look if I change that to 0.3. Notice over here, that changed to 0.3. So that legend description is live tied to this right here. It says height 0.3. So if I change that back to 0.125, it changes it back right there. Okay, so what I want you to do, over here, you created this graph, just a basic graph for that. Now what I want you to do on this sheet is I want you to add the equations so that you now have height up here, and this is calculating the deflection for that height. Remember before we had our height up here. Well, now that height doesn't do anything. In fact, really I would take that height out because height is down here now. So what I want you to do is update the spreadsheet so that height is down here, and then create this graph right here. So if you click over to this page right here, I've got the graph we did before already in here started, and then you can do your work in here to add deflection. And just like before, if you know what to do, go and do it. If not, I'm going to go through it. You can watch me and then go back and do it yourself. So let's add the equations to this. So I look at what I'm doing, and I want the heights to go across and then to have that labeled heights inches. So I'm going to put my first height in right here. So I'm going to look and see, okay, what is it already? It's 0.063, so 0.063. And then I'm just going to put a couple more for now, 0.07 and 0.08. I'm going to come up above there, merge and center, heights, inches. Okay, perfect. So now what I need to do is change my equation. And I look, where's my height now? My height is right here. What is that? That's C23. So I'm going to look in my equation, C23. That's that right there. Okay, so I'm at 0.0363 is what I am right now. I'm going to highlight that. And I'm going to click right there because that's where I want to point to instead. So I'm going to press enter. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute, that's wrong because now it's 0.0355. Before it was 0.0363. I'm like, what's going on? And I click on this and it's like, oh, look, the rounding thing got us. The real number in there is 0.0625. I just changed the format to 3 spots and it's confusing me. So look, if I say 0.0625, oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, so I got that in there just fine. Now I need to worry about my dollar signs. Okay, so this right here, when I copy it down, I don't want that D29 to change. So I'm going to put a dollar right there. When I copy it to the right, I do want it to change because when I copy it here, I want it to get this one and then that one. So I'm going to leave the D alone. But all of the rest of these, my load, when I copy to the right, I don't want it to move. My B, my E. So all of these others, I need to put dollar signs in front of the column. Okay? So now let me copy, move down, say paste, and see, is the equation still right? Remember, there's 2 things I could do. One thing, I could go 0.0625. Am I getting the same number? Yes, I am, so that's a good sign. But I also want to double check my equation. C36, yep, that's my W, that's what I want. Then C21, go up 1, L cubed, yep, that's what I want, over 4, E, B, H cubed. Yes, that's exactly right. So you see, now I can take that, I can say copy, I can bring it like this, come all the way down and say paste. And so now there's all my numbers. So I can change this guy back to 0.08 or whatever else I want. So now I also want to say deflection in each one of those. There we go. And you could do some more formatting and all that stuff to it. But you see, that's exactly what you did on the last homework. It's just now you're going in 2 directions. And that's what you do in Excel. You create equations, you copy in multiple directions, and you put the dollar sign in there to freeze the directions you want to make it easy. So you see, I could have 1,000 heights and it would have been no harder. I just would have copied it a whole lot more times. Okay, so there's the equations. Now let's go and look at your graph. And there's a couple of ways we could do this. One way is we could come right here and we could highlight this and we could say insert, and we could go to our, and we could go like that, and there's our graph, okay? So it went and it grabbed all of these. How do I know I got them all? If I click right here, it shows me, okay, I got those 2. How about right here? Yep, there's X and Y. How about right here? Yep, so it did that all fine. What it didn't do was get my legend in here okay. So that didn't work out right. The other way that I could do it, and especially since I've already got this one formatted with the tick marks that I want, all that kind of stuff, is I could just add to it. So one of the things with graphs, when you click in the middle of it right here and say select data, this is a screen you want to be really, really familiar with because this is the guts of your graph. This is showing you what really is happening with your graph. So if you come right in here and say edit, this is the data that your graph is doing. So if you look at your X values, I click on that, it's showing me, yep, that's what I want right there. My Y values, yep, that's got that right there. And the name. So for the name, for right now, I'm going to click right there. Great. Now I can add another one. So I can click right here and say, okay, what's the name? That's this one. What's the X value? So I come down here and I highlight that. What's the Y value? That's this guy right here. And so you see the other one shows up. Now I can add one more. Select range. Click that. X values. Whoops. Right down there. Y values. And you can go up and down. Doesn't make any difference. So say OK. OK. And there's all this. If you look at what I had over here, it said legend down at the bottom. So let's see. Remember I said you can click here and add things to your graph. Look at legend. Now come right out here and it'll let you pick where it goes. I want it down at the bottom. So there's my legend. You see that linear? That's the trend line. Back here when I was showing you, you could put a line on it. That's that thing left over. So if I come over here and click on it and then hit delete, it's going to get rid of it. So you see now there's my 0.0625, 07, 08. And if I change this 0.08 to 0.1, it changes on there. So that's all good. Now, one thing it doesn't say height. I'm going to show you in a minute how to do that, okay? So don't worry right now. I'll show you how to do that. But the other thing is, remember I told you over here, use different markers and stuff. So just like before, you click on something, you right click, say format, and you get to a screen that lets you format that. So right there, there's lines and markers. So this is going to allow me to change things about the line. So is it a solid? Is it a different color? Do I want it to be dotted? Do I want to change the width of the line? Do I want arrows on it? All those things about the line I could change, but I want to change marker. And you have to be careful because you click on marker and then it's easy to jump down here and think you're changing things. No, the marker's right here. You got to open it up. So I'm going to say built in. So now I can change the kind of marker. And then this right here is going to change the size. So if I wanted to make it bigger or smaller, I could change that right there. If I wanted to make it a different color, I could do that. Then I could click on this guy, right click, format data series, do the same thing, click there, go to marker. I got to open up my marker. I want it built in, and then I clicked the little star guy for that guy. Okay? So that's how we got the 3 different ones for that. So two things to notice here. One, to get the new graph, I just started with one that I already had. How did I get this? I came back here and I took this graph and I said copy. I came over here and I said paste. So you see, if you already have a graph, you can copy it to another sheet to use it. The only thing though is when I right click and say select data and I say edit, notice it's pointing all the way back over to this other sheet. So what I got to do is click right here and say, no, I'm on this Excel example number 2. That's what I want. So you see, I got to get the data oriented back for this sheet. So I could click right on that guy right there. Same thing for my X. It's way back on this one. No, I want Excel example 2. And then I could highlight all my X right there. And same thing for my Y. Beautiful. Now this is referring to this current sheet and I could just add to it. Okay, whoops. So I'm going to delete the whole thing. Now we're back to right here. So then the last thing I want to show you on this is how did I get the legend to say height? And I sort of tricked it. So here's what I did. I came in here and in fact it's already there. So I'm going to come right in here Notice I go 29 to 31. There's a hidden cell in there, so I'm going to highlight those. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say unhide. And you see that guy right there? I'm going to delete everything in there for a second. So what I did was, when that wasn't there, let me just delete it. This is what your sheet will have. I came in right there and I'm going to insert a line. And what I'm going to do is I want this to say height with whatever that height is. So I'm going to use a function called concatenate. It puts things together. So remember, if I want to find a function, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say more functions. I'm going to look under the C's, and this is just one of those you just have to remember. Or it's dealing, nope, I'm not even going to say that. C-O-N, concatenate, there it is right there. Join several strings together. So the first thing I want it to say is height, and I want there to be a space. The next thing I want it to have is the actual number from this cell right here. So I'm going to click on that cell and come back. And notice what it's got right there. So now I'm going to say, okay. So now look at the syntax. Concatenate any words that I want in quotes, comma, the next thing that I want. So I can take that now and say copy. Move over there, say paste. Let me look at the next one. Oh, look, now it changed it to E, changed it to F. So now down here on my graph, instead of pointing to this cell to get my legend, I want to point to this cell right here. So look what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, okay, select data, edit, click on the name, and I'm going to click right there. Okay. So now notice that first one now has a height on it. I'm going to do the same thing for all the others. Right click, select data. I'm going to click on this guy, say edit, click there, go right there, say okay. And the last one, edit, click right there, click on that guy, press enter, and say okay. All right. So 2 things you did on here. You added the equations, worked on your dollar signs, then you saw how to add more series to your graph, change the formatting of them, and then also you saw a trick of how to concatenate and create words and numbers together. So you see, these are live. So if I change that to 0.3, that's going to change, which changes this. And then what I would do is I would come and I'd right click and I'd hide that cell. So now you never know that that's going on there. But it's nicer on your graph. It highlights exactly what that legend item is. So you should have all of the basic skills that you need now to start effectively communicating with graphs using Excel. And that's really what a graph is. With a graph, you're not just putting data out. You're putting it out in a way that effectively communicates what the data is trying to tell you. It communicates to you so you can analyze it properly. And then a graph is a great tool where you're using it to communicate to other people what you're trying to say and what you think the data is trying to tell you and that you want to get across to them. So I encourage you to start using these skills in classes like your physics lab. When you have graphs to do, use these tools and effectively communicate what you want to in your lab reports. In the next video, you're going to learn a couple of other tips that are going to allow you to communicate even more effectively with graphs. You're going to learn how to put objects on your graph, how you could put arrows, how you could put words, just to highlight things that you want people to look at. For now, start using the skills that you've got and just practice and just begin to build your ability to do these things.